This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, sharing screen. Okay, so I have a AWS account. I hope you also have your AWS account. So now let us install Docker. First, I'll create one VM. I'm in Mumbai region. Let's go to EC2. Instances. Launch instance. Naming it as Docker. And then I'm taking AWS Linux 2, free tier eligible. T2 micro, this is also free tier eligible. And then just naming it as Docker. Taking new key pair, ppk, and then this one. For now, I will allow all the traffic. Okay, I'm allowing all the traffic for practice purpose, and that's all. We can launch the instance. Instance is getting started. Let us set up the putty. I will name this session as Docker. IP address. Okay, here go to data and you can input your username. This is EC2-user and then SSH authentication. Select your key. This software download Docker. Save the session. But I use Super Putty for multiple tabs. In Putty, you will only get one tab, but in Super Putty, you will get multiple tabs. So I use Super Putty usually. Take the session Docker, paste your IP address. Okay, I connected it. Just I'll change the settings. Is it visible? So I hope all of you know how to launch EC2 instance, right? Anyone is not aware?
I'm not aware.
You all know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now let us install Docker in this. You can go through the documentation, Docker install AWS Linux 2. Here we can get documentation from AWS. These are very straightforward commands. Update -y. and then Amazon Linux Extras install Docker, single command, that's it. But we can see other installing Docker on other OS also in future classes. This is the CentOS version actually, RHEL, same like RHEL and then CentOS, Alma Linux. Okay, and then start the Docker, enable Docker. Now if you run Docker PS, you will not get the results because by default only root have access to run the Docker command. So what we do is we will add our user to the Docker group. Our user is EC2-user. I'm adding this user to the Docker group so that this user get the access to run the Docker command. Okay. Now if you run, you will not get because first you need to exit once and then open again. Now you will get the access. Okay. So this is how we install Docker. Very simple. Even other OS like Ubuntu also it is very simple. These are the few commands to install Docker. Okay.
You have selected CentOS, right?
This is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Amazon, AWS Enterprise Linux. If it
Okay.
is Ubuntu, the commands are also very simple. Just follow these commands if it is Ubuntu. We will do that. Just these few commands only. Okay. So now this is to install Docker. Now let us discuss Docker commands. First command I ran is docker ps. Docker ps means what are the running commands? You know, ps command is like to get the running processes. Similarly, docker ps is to get the running containers. Okay. Now, okay, I can note it down. All the documentation I can note in here. I can note in GitLab and then I can push it to the GitLab. Okay. So here, if you want, we can maintain this documentation also. Okay. Now let us discuss Docker commands. First command is to get running containers. Command is docker ps. Since we are not running anything, we did not get any results. To pull images, docker pull. The format is image name colon image tag. Okay, this is the command. Now to get the images, docker images. We don't have any images. This is a plain installation. Now to pull the image, docker pull nginx if I give. Okay, we need to do the Docker login since Docker removed the open access recently. So this is the Docker Hub. Everyone, you should have account in this.
Siva, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The thing
Yes,
is,
yes.
I can see a very lag between your voice and the video. Is it only for me or are others also facing the same issue? Could you please confirm? Others, please.
Yeah. Anyone is facing lag?
No, for me it is fine.
What?
Oh, it's fine, Shiva.
Yeah, some
Okay.
differences.
Voice
Oh.
is fine. We can hear it very perfectly. But the thing is that screen sharing video is lag behind your voice. Like
Oh, is
if
it?
we if you type some command, na, you are
How many members are facing this?
you are telling the command or by the words you are telling the command, but in the screen we are not actually seeing actually.
Oh, is it? Okay, let us check for another 5 minutes and then see.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Okay. So earlier Docker was giving full access as open source user, but now Docker is restricting it. So we need to log in for Docker. Okay, Docker login. We need to give our username and password. Okay, just create an account here in Docker Hub. This is just like a simple GitHub account. Now, if you pull Docker image like nginx, let us see. Oh, nginx is not here. Okay, Docker pull nginx. Oh, sorry, that was a typo.
Your Nginx contains only application or along with any base OS?
Sorry, once again.
This Nginx image will contain only standalone application or is it supplied with any base operating system?
So your voice is not clear. I'm getting a lot of disturbance in it. Can you type that? Please type and okay, so I pulled the image. Now how it works, the Docker architecture we need to discuss. This is the Docker architecture. Here Docker CLI is the one, the command line. This is the one, Docker CLI. And Docker daemon is the Docker engine we installed. And it has a local image registry. And this is Docker Hub. Whenever you ask for something like Docker pull image, the command goes to Docker daemon and it will check whether any image is available in the local image registry. If it is not available, it will pull from Docker Hub and then it will give back to us. We have it hasn't created the container. We will see how to create the container also. So if you face what is the Docker architecture, you need to tell in Docker architecture, there will be a Docker CLI, Docker daemon, and then image registries. Whenever Docker CLI requested for something, Docker daemon checks whether it is available in local registry. If it is available, it can give it. Otherwise, if it will pull from the Docker hub and create a container out of it and can pass the response to the Docker CLI. So this is the Docker architecture. This is how you need to answer in your interview. Okay, and then now I pull the image. So simple. How to check the images is Docker images. Okay, and then we need to create the container out of it. Create container out of image. Docker create image ID. Okay. If you see Docker images now, we got the images. Okay. Nginx tag latest. If you don't give any tag, then it will pull the latest. We got the image ID. Now how to create the container out of it from the image? The command is docker create and then image ID. Okay, so this is the container created, but it hasn't started. If you see docker ps, you will not get anything. But if you see docker ps -a, you got the container. Docker ps -a is to list all the containers, including the stopped one, created one, everything. -a means all. To list all containers. Docker ps -a. Okay, container is created but has not started. How to start the container? Docker start and then container ID. Okay. Now the container got started. You can see Docker ps and it is running also. Okay. Start the container. Docker start container ID. Okay, first we pull the image and then we create the container out of the image. Then we are starting the container. We can do one thing. Instead of doing all these three commands, we can use a single command for all this purpose. To pull, create and start container, you can just run docker run and then image tag. Okay. So docker run equal to docker pull plus docker create plus docker start. Now let me pull another one, docker run httpd. So it is trying to get it from the local. It is not able to find and it is pulling from the Docker hub and then it is running it. Okay. You can see this here. But when I run it, it attached to the screen. By default, Docker container attached to the screen. If you want to exit, you need to put Control C. Otherwise, you cannot do anything. To run it in a detached mode, you need to use -d. Docker run -d httpd. Then it will go to the background. Okay. How to run the container in detached mode using -d. It here. Run container in detached mode. Docker run -d image and then tag. Okay, now you have your Nginx and then your Apache running, but how you will access this? There is something else. First, let us remove the containers. Docker remove and then container ID. Because it is running, you are not able to remove it. You need to use -f for forcing. Okay. Remove container. Docker rm-f container ID. Okay. Similarly, I will remove docker rm-f and then this one. Okay. Now I want to access this Apache or Nginx in the internet. How can I do that? You are running it, no problem with -d. But if you need to assign the port also. Docker run -d detached mode -p is to assign the port. I am assigning my host port, I mean my VM port 8080 with Nginx port default port 80, and then I'm running it as Nginx. Okay, now what will happen is this is a VM. You have Nginx container here. How can I access is there is a host port. I'm assigning a host port. You know, Nginx by default runs it on port number 80. And then I am assigning a port number 8080. This has one IP address, right? Basically, I'm doing the port forwarding. Now what will, and then I am assigning these two ports. By using -d. You see here, -d is the detached mode. -p is for I'm assigning a port. First port is 8080 host port, and then 80 is the container port. Okay, I'm creating the relation between these two. Now if I run this, you got it running. Now if you hit with your IP address and then port number 8080, you are getting the Nginx page. Okay, your host received the port, your host received the request and then forwarded that request to the Nginx container. Similarly, you can run Apache also, like docker run -d -p 8081 80 and then httpd. Now I am assigning 8081 port to httpd. Now you can access this with 8081. You got Apache. Okay. So this is how you run the container in detached mode and you assign the port. You will get this question, how you expose the port of the container by assigning it to the host port using -p. Okay. Now if I give capital P, you no need to do this thing. If you do docker ps, you see a random port is assigned by your host. If you use -P, your host will select one random port. Okay. Instead of that, we use small p and we selected our own host port. Any doubts still here? Any doubts? No? Okay, we can continue. Now your containers are running. You need to get SSH access of your container, terminal access. How can you do that? The command is docker exec. Exec means execute -it interactive mode and then your container ID and just give bash to get the bash access. Now you are inside the container. You see? Now you are logged in inside the container. Till now we are working in this host. Now we logged into the container, this area. Okay. The command is docker exec -it is for interactive mode and then container ID and bash. Now you can get here all your commands just like you do in SSH. How to log into running container. Docker exec -it container ID and then just give bash. Okay, now I don't want to come out of it, press Ctrl D. Now I don't want to log in inside. I just want Docker to run one command and then give me the output. I don't want to log in. Then Docker exec, you no need to give -it container ID and then give ls-l. Now without logging to the container, it will run the command and it will give it to you the output. Okay. And then if you want to inspect any running container, you need to give docker inspect and the container ID. This will give you full information. Now you go and check. To get the full information of the container, you need to give docker inspect. When you created it, what is the image you used, what is the host path, what is the name of the container, the IP address, networking mode, everything you will get here. What is the exposed ports, what is the host name, all the things you get from here. Working directory, volumes we will discuss now. What is the IP address of your container? All the things are available using docker inspect command. Docker inspect container ID. Okay, any doubts still here? These are the simple commands. Once we learn, then we can easily start Docker file how to create our own images. Okay, and then now we discuss now we discuss Docker volumes little bit, not in depth. We will get in depth in future. Now I want to run MySQL. Okay, I got one question in the chat. I will answer it from Suresh. Now let us see whether it is running or not. MySQL is not running. You get it in the stopped containers. If you run docker ps-a, you see exited 16 seconds ago MySQL. You want to know why it is exited? You just give docker logs and then container ID. Now it is saying you need to specify one of the following. That is why it is terminated. Because when you are running the MySQL as a container, you need to provide the username and password. Otherwise, your container will not run. So that is why it is showing you need to specify one of the following option. Okay. So how we run it is, how we got it is docker logs. So another command is to check the logs of container. Simple docker logs. Now you know from the logs that there is something missing. How you provide this is through the environment variables. Now if I run like docker ps, now if you run this, if you want to know the environment variables, docker exec and then give env command. Now you are getting all the environment variables related to this container. So what MySQL is saying, while you create the container, you need to pass one of the variable MySQL root password. How you pass is through the environment variables. Docker run -d MySQL. Before that -e. It means environment variable, name of the variable, and then I am giving it as admin123. Okay. Now I am passing the variable through environment variable -e. Now if you check, your MySQL is running. Okay. Now let us log inside docker exec -it and then bash. Now you are inside the MySQL. Just log in here -u root -p admin123. This is the command to log in as a MySQL user. Now I am in the MySQL prompt. Now you can see here show databases. So here you want to learn to provide environment variables to container. Use docker run -d. This is one example. Name and then value. Okay. Now let me create one database. Okay, I created the database. Come out of it. MySQL prompt. Come out of the container. I created one database means I saved some data inside the container. That is, I created the database. Okay. Now if you remove it, usually what will happen is whenever you remove the container, your data also by default will be deleted. Okay. To check it, if you run again, docker exec -it mysql-u root -p admin 123. Now check show databases. There is no database called Docker because whenever you remove the container, by default the data also will be deleted. But we don't want like this. We want our data to be stored. So for that purpose, we have Docker volumes. Now I create one directory here, mysql-data. Now while running the container, you need to give -v mysql-data, your path. Okay, what is the path of this? PWD, home visit user, right? Now while creating this container, you need to provide your path of the folder colon your container path var lib mysql. How I know this is if you go to the Docker Hub, just search MySQL. Here you will get the information. Your configuration file is here, and then see you have to host your host volume to the container volume like this. Okay, you are just mounting your host directory to the container directory. Okay, now let us log in docker exec -it. Screen stuck. Sorry, it got stuck. Let me close. Just rebooting it since it's a t2.micro. Any doubt still here? Okay, somebody asked me one doubt in the chat. The Nginx image is only application image or does it contain any base OS? Every image should have one base OS. How the Nginx image built is, first they take base OS and then install few libraries for Nginx and then install Nginx. Okay, on top of base OS they install few libraries and then they install Nginx and then they create this as image. So every Docker image will have a base OS. Nginx means underlying there is an OS and there are few libraries also installed. Okay, we will see this. We will create our own Nginx image as well. I will just stop and then start again. Any doubts you can ask in the time. How to mount volume in host to the container. Docker run -d -v host directory path container path and then image tag. Example, Docker run -d -e like home EC2 user MySQL data var lib MySQL. Okay. Something happened to this host. So any other doubts? Abhishek, Suresh, Ravi, Srinivas, Funny, Gopi, Senthil. Okay. So the instance got killed. We lost all our data running containers. So I'm running it again. Docker run -d. Okay, but you see here, anyhow, our instances got deleted, but the data got saved here. You can check this. Okay. So this is the proof. Even your instances got deleted, your data is here. You can still mount this to another container. Docker run -d -v. Usually we give full path, or else you can give relative path also. Okay, but you need to give environment variable also. But that is already here in the volume. You see here, I did not give any environment variable as password because that is there in the volume as well. Docker exec -it Okay. Exit, but you need to give it as a, still you need to give the password. -e MySQL root password. Okay. Using a password on the command line interface can be insecure. Access denied for user root @ localhost. Why? Okay, something happened actually when the containers got, when the system got stopped. Let us test this again. I will remove all the containers. Docker run -f. Now you can run it. Something crashed, so I will remove the data also here. Okay. Docker exec -it. MySQL -u root -p admin123. Something is wrong.
Shiva,
This is, yeah.
you need to give the space between -p and password.
No, actually we should not give space. You should not give space in a MySQL command actually.
Okay, okay.
Okay, maybe the environment variable is spelling is wrong. MySQL root password. Okay, Docker run -d and then -e admin123 MySQL. Docker ps. Okay, you can run any number of instances actually. That is a Docker advantage. Docker exec -t, then bash. Something happening to the server inside. So CPU utilization is suddenly getting high because of we are running more containers with this T2.micro. This is a very small instance actually, but should be okay for practice. But it is becoming slow. Anyhow, this is not responding for now. This takes some time. By the time we'll be over the time. So we can stop here. Tomorrow I will continue this. Anyhow, actually we already discussed, but since it is instance is not responding, this is just one more command, but the syntax is same. Docker run, you need to mount your host volume to the container volume like this. So later when you remove the container, your data will still be here. You can host that data with another container. So that's it. These are the Docker basic commands we need to learn. And tomorrow we can create our own images using Dockerfile. We have some instructions like Dockerfile instructions. This is very important for interviews also. We will discuss all these: run, cmd, entry point, work directory, env, all these commands, volume, user, argument. Here also we have environment variable also. All these commands, all these instructions we will learn, and then we will create our own Docker images. And we can copy our application inside it, we can run it. Okay, you practice these commands. I'll check this instance what happened, why it is consuming lot of space, and then tomorrow I will continue. Okay, any doubts?
Siva, do we have access to that Git repository? Could you please share that?
Yeah, I will send you in WhatsApp message. I haven't pushed. I will send and then I will post the link to you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, I'll paste the images also. In future classes also, I will post this information through the GitLab.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's all for today, and we'll continue tomorrow, same timing. I will send the message in recording within 1.5 hours maximum.
Okay, Shiva, thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
See you.
Thank you, Siva. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you, Shiva.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Shiva.
Bye.
Thank you, Shiva.